Namaste. Welcome to the part 2 of Everyday Spirituality with Mayuri, where I have our special guest Vineet Pulavaraya. From our first show, we have a recap, a quick introduction of what we captured in the first session. And in this session, we are going to delve deeply into two aspects. The first aspect being the nuances of the Vedic chants, the recitation, the practices, and the relevant points that we need to carry home while being in practice. And the second section be dedicated to the agamas. What are agamas? How do we put this into practice in our everyday life? What are the options that we have to make it more customizable? All of this and much more in today's show. So, welcome Vineet. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And couldn't wait to go deeper into these aspects. And I think we should make a plea together that we will be discussing a lot of points which have to be taken with more aware, sacred approach. Not really make it open to a lot of debates according to different types of principles, perspectives, which are aplenty in nature. So that is our humble request, and be very kind and mindful about your comments on that.
Okay.
So now can we just recap the summary
Yes, sure.
of what we discussed last time about the Vedic chanting? So for the uninitiated, how would you introduce the swaras of the Vedic chanting?
Okay, so Vedic chanting, so when we define it, it refers to the recitation of the Vedas. So we are not talking about the mantras from the Vedas, but the Vedas themselves, because the Vedas are in the form of mantras. Right? So
can you explain that a little more?
So as to reiterate what we saw in the first episode, so the entire cosmos is it's an amalgamation of vibrations, right? And it's in the form of akasha. And sound energy is the skeleton to the body we refer to as a cosmos. I even gave an analogy on how every sound has a geometry to it, and a geometry is what consolidates to give the various forms and dimensions of the universe. So by that understanding, so when ancient sages, when they were in penance and when they received various forms of knowledge or truths from the cosmos, they received them in the form of a series of sounds which they envisioned. And that is why they are referred to as mantra drashta, one who envisions a particular truth in a form of a mantra. And these mantras which were received had particular character attributes or characteristics.
Right.
And that is what reflects as the swaras. So to put it simple, swara basically means the up rising and down falling of the pitch within a recitation. Right. So let's say let's say the middle pitch is Om. So anything which goes higher in pitch, in respect to pitch, then that Om will be a high pitch, and something which goes lower will be a low pitch.
Yeah. So, and you explained the three types of swaras, right?
Yes.
Udatta, Anudatta, and Swarita.
Yes. Yes.
And what would that mean quickly for people's reference?
Okay, so maybe we can quote an example. So let's say the mantra, let's take Ganana Antva.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say the mantra, so let's say it's recited as Om Ganana Antva. So when I say Ga, it's Gana. So you can notice that the Ga goes low.
Low, yes.
Gana, Om. Let's say Om is the standard. So Om Ga. So you notice that Ga goes lower. Ganana Antva Ganapati. So when I say Ganapati, that Pa is going high.
Right.
So if we really, let's say we remove all the aksharas. So if you get a tune, a raw tune, it will sound something like So that's the raw, that's the actual raw form of swaras. So the aksharas are basically codings, like code letters which represent these swaras. So that is why they say, in fact, Vedas are swaras. So when we talk about Vedic recitation, the utmost importance is the swaras. Because swaras are Vedas.
Because in mantra yoga, when we teach, we don't go into the swaras at all, because that is completely the expertise of the Vedic chanting. So for beginners, okay, there are 4 types of Vedas.
Okay.
So which ones are the ones that they can recite? Are there any restrictions on recitation? What should they chant? What should they not chant?
Okay. Again, so when we talk about the 4 Vedas, they are not really distinct forms of Vedas. So as we know, so understanding, again, coming to the genesis, so there were many rishis and even rishikas.
Yes.
So even the rishis, they come from a wide spectrum of entities. So they included even males and females as well. Therefore, rishis and rishikas. So a lot of them downloaded various forms of truths in these mantras. So when we talk about this is Shrutis, that is why the Vedas, they were termed Shrutis, because that which was heard. So initially it was an ocean of mantras. The whole Vedas were in the form of an ocean of mantras. So it's to organize that knowledge, Veda Vyasa happened and he edited. So he branched that whole big ocean into 4 or initially 3 divisions. Yes.
And the Atharva was added later.
Yes, we could say. So again, a lot of different schools of thoughts are there. So initially, the idea is that there were 3 Vedas: Rig, Yajur, Sama, and only Atharva Veda was the mantras of which constitute the Atharva Veda today were included in the Vedas later on. But again, these things are very ancient, right? So every school of thought, every sampradaya has its own explanation. But if we stick to the genesis, then we can stand with the right cognition that these are sound-based knowledge. So it's just like science, which have science as just science. But to facilitate its learning, we branch it. We branch a particular nature of or understanding of science into physics and biology and chemistry. And then within biology, we have several sub-branches, microbiology or etc. So Veda Vyasa did something like that. So the mantras which come in a form of rig meaning a particular verse with a particular number of aksharas, a particular chandas. So when
chandas means meter.
Meter, yes.
Right?
Meaning one particular verse will have specific aksharas and it will come to a pause. It wouldn't be in a continuum form. The recitation will actually have like parts by part, like bits by bits. So all the mantras which were in the form of rigs were compiled, and that is what we refer as the Rig Veda. And the mantras which were applicable to rituals, they were, so that is why it's Yajuhu Veda. So those mantras were compiled and it became Yajur Veda. The mantras of the Rig Veda itself, the mantras
and Yajuhu itself means
like yaga, worship.
To perform the rituals, right?
Yes.
Yagas.
And the mantras of the Rig Veda itself, when it was done in a particular sing-song fashion, but not a random sing-song fashion, in a particular Vedic manner, those mantras were compiled as Sama Veda. And those mantras which did not belong to any of these particular groups came under Atharva Veda. So again, there are a lot of mantras which will coexist in all these Vedas. So it will be probably like Purusha Sukta. So it is found in all branches of all 4 Vedas.
So you mean to say they are actually the subsets?
Yes, because many mantras they come in a form of a rig, and they can also have an attribute which can be applicable to a worship ritual. So they will be found in both Yajur and Rig Veda.
And what will be the difference, like in the form of their recitation, the scales, the pitch, or how is it different?
So the Vedas are universal regardless of which branch. They always have the swaras. The swaras are fixed. The pronunciations are fixed. but the style in which we use the swaras or intonate may vary slightly. Like for example, to give an example, there's a same mantra which will appear in Rig and Yajurveda. Again, let's use Ganana Antva. So if you are taking Yajurvediya style, then it will come as Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kaving Kavina Mupamashravastamam. In Rig Veda, and Rig Veda itself, there are many styles.
I see.
There's Sringeri Patha, Kanchi Patha. So if we take the Kanchi Patha for the same mantra, it will be recited in Rig Veda as Om Ganana Antva Ganapatim Havamahe. So the
how you space it out and how you jump to the next syllable or next akshara makes the style different, right?
But the swaras are the same. Like I used Ganapati Gum in Yajurveda, but it was Ganapatim in Rig Veda. So the Gum rule, that is unique to Yajurveda, the Krishna Yajurveda. So like that, the styles vary, but they all have the same swaras. Pronunciation is the same, swaras is the same.
And for somebody who is a novice, who's just beginning their journey, this can be a very overwhelming information. So I'm going to try and break it down and stop you at those junctures where we use these nomenclatures. So you said the Kanchi Patha and the Sringeri Patha, right? The lineages. So how does one choose this? How does one choose this is a style with is it because of more authenticity or is it because of the ease of access? How?
So initially, one reason for branching was that also one good thing about branching the Vedas, and each of these 4 Vedas had many branches to it. So every family, so in the ancient traditions, every family was attached to one shakha, one branch of a particular Veda. So they only learned the mantras of that branch of that particular Veda. So in this manner, the Vedas were preserved. It's an ingenious way of preserving the Vedas, because over time, as we approached Kali Yuga, so the capacity of an average individual was too limited to grasp the entire Vedas, which was probably possible back in the earlier ages. So this organization facilitated the process to conserve the Vedas. So there's nothing but being more authentic or less authentic. It's just that according to the tradition in which they are associated or born with. So they will learn those mantras of those branches. So at times, even if they had interest to learn a particular mantra, unless it was belonging to that shakha in which their family tradition is attached to, then they would not, was not their dharma to learn some other mantra.
So dharma is basically, it is not your right to learn.
Yes, or your duty.
Or your duty.
Yes, basically. Because if you leave because you are given the task to learn these particular branch and to preserve it and to teach it. So without doing that, if you jump to some other branch, then that will lead to the extinction of a lot of shakas, which has happened, unfortunately.
Right. So whatever we have is already like a remnant of the things that existed as a whole, much larger in its scope, right?
Yes.
I see. That makes sense.
Yes. In fact, they say that we have lost about what we have today is only 10% of the actual ocean. And even in the Upanishads, initially we say that there were 1008, and today we only have 108.
Right.
So we have lost probably 90% of what was originally there. Yes.
So in terms of the teaching or the learning aspect, are there any restrictions? Because the lineages can be very strict in terms of imparting this knowledge. I'm sure some of the schools are also changing their outlook towards this. So what is your personal opinion about it?
Again, my personal opinion, right? So if someone is enrolling in a traditional Vedic school, then of course they would have their traditional process of initiation. But again, today there are a lot of Hindus who are interested to learn the Vedas because the exposure is now more evident.
Right.
You have internet, YouTube is there. So a lot of people want to learn it, but they may be, they might not have the priority to fully enroll in a Vedic school.
Right.
Yeah. So we have to understand the situation of today, right? Back in the days, this was done as a profession. Teaching the Vedas was done as a profession, and those who taught Vedas were supported by the kings.
Yes.
So, but today situation is
There were
different.
patrons
Yes. A lot of when a lot of people who are learning the Vedas are learning out of interest, and they can't give a full lifelong commitment to it. But that interest is good because it enables everyone to get
A glimpse.
a glimpse of that beauty, and it is the crux of the society. It's something, everything that we have in Hinduism comes from the principles which are laid in the Vedas. So, and right now we can't apply the ancient rules because everyone has access to listening the Vedas. Just YouTube, any form of mantra can be just, you can access it. So when that is the scenario today, it is important that we provide a guidance for people to learn.
Right.
Because a lot of these resources, they recite Vedas in a sing-song manner, they add music to it. So
Yes, this was my next question.
Yes.
What are the inflexibilities, not from an assumed superiority, not even from something that was given and handed over? What could be the reason, potential reason for it to not lose its potency, perhaps? So not to allow the dilution of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. Because again, in contrast to other form of mantras which were composed, maybe the Vedas is a direct representation of what was there in the cosmos. So that is why we can't make it human centric. We can't add tunes to it as we like, because it is already in a particular way. It has a particular waveform, a particular geometry to it. So we have to just recite it as it is.
So this is, to make it very clear, this is applicable only to the Vedic mantras.
Yes,
per
only
se,
the Vedic
right?
mantra, only the Vedas. Anything with swaras are from the Vedas. Yes. So
And there are lots of excerpts that we use even in the Shanti mantras or the invocations, right? Are they good to go for different type of musical renditions?
if that Shanti mantra is from the Vedas, then no.
Technically, no.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. But there are a lot of other forms of Shanti mantras which come in the form of shlokas. So they can be very well, you can add music, you can sing it in any form that you like. But if the mantras are if the mantras are part of the Vedas, then strictly, yes. Even some strict scholars even do not encourage them to use Shruti box, because for them Vedas are Shruti.
Right.
So to tune it, so many people when they do a group recitation, they use a Shruti box or Tanpura to align to that one Shruti. So when some strict scholars even do this, would not encourage that, because for them Vedas are Shrutis, so you cannot add or remove anything. It's raw. It's just raw and pure as it is.
Okay, I gather that. It's because initially, I think we had a conversation regarding that, right?
Yeah.
There were some mantras. I come from the school of philosophy that anything which is very potent should not be feared, right?
Yes.
So there are two sides to it. Because of the replicability and adaptation and appreciation of these things into different types of musical backgrounds, there is a growing interest, right? But at the same time, we also run the risk of losing the authenticity, the origin of it,
exactly.
because everybody, there is no point where we can say this is it, and there are innumerable number of perspectives, right? No right or wrong.
Yes.
And that's a very thin blade with both the edges so sharp that in the process of being so diplomatically right, we may end up losing the essence of it and not be able to distinguish between what is real and what is actually a diluted version, right?
Yes, exactly.
And that is what is happening in the form of yoga and Tantra.
Yes, exactly. And that's important because the Vedic recitation, the way we intone it, that itself it's unique. So when we just for personal interest, when we start adding music to all these recitations, then we lose as what you said, we lose the authenticity.
Right.
Of it. It's unique by itself. If someone is really interested to sing mantras, there's an ocean of shlokas, sahasranama, ashtakas, which they can pick, and there's no swaras to it, there's no strict rules to it. We can do that.
Yes. I mean, that opens us to another big set of questions regarding the musicality of it and the type of music, the type of vibration it creates. I'm going to park that for some time later. I'm going to come back and join another part of the restriction, which is, I would say, an inflexibility. There are some lineages which don't teach women. And I know that this is not a right approach, because there have been rishikas who were equal consorts of the rishis, if not more, or independent in their own accord. What is your take on it, and how are you breaking this barrier? And I know that you are, which is why I'm asking this question.
Yes, okay. Yes, so I understand, because even now that belief is very much prevalent that women should not learn this, and a lot of my students are females, because naturally they show more interest towards these traditions. So again, there's, from what I understand, there is no actual shastra pramana to this. When I say shastra pramana, meaning from the Shrutis. So the Vedas, Upanishads do not give these rules. These statements are vaguely found in other forms of commentaries
Or smritis.
Yes. So in my opinion, that will be specific to maybe a school of thought, but it cannot be made universal.
Yeah.
So let us say someone is learning from this tradition, this parampara. If that parampara dictates that, then of course they may have to follow that, because we have to respect that tradition. They may have various reasons to it, and we respect that, but those rules of prohibition, in my opinion, it cannot be made universal. They can't dictate and make it a universal law that every tradition should submit to that. Because these, again, as I said, these are things which are very ancient, and no one follows every reference point which is given in the scriptures. No one is following that. So let us say in the ancient times, males were the ones who were reciting. So my question is, let us say females are not qualified. Today, on contemporary, which male is qualified to even learn the Vedas? None of us are like the ancient rishis. We don't fully live their lifestyles, right? Yes. From the food we eat, from the occupation we do. It's not. So in that sense, if we want to prohibit females because some commentary exists in the ancient texts, or some tradition quotes that, the same would apply to males, because the current males, it cannot be compared to the ancient ones.
Yes.
So
the current race itself on its own.
Yes, and the males today would agree to it. The Vedic scholars would agree. So if we can compromise those things and still allow recitation and learning of the Vedas in respect to one particular gender, why can't we make it more accessible to women as well, when they can learn and create a wave out of it, a spiritual wave in it.
Right.
Yes, because again, there's no, as I say, there's no shastra pramana to it, and there are many Rig Veda mantras which were downloaded or received by rishikas.
Right.
For example, the Ratri Sukta, Devi Sukta, these were all received by females who were the rishis. Right. So
wow, very interesting.
Yes. So it is almost like the rule dictates that even if when we say only, let us say someone says only males are allowed to recite it, but what you're reciting was revealed through a female.
Right.
Right. So that's another point. And also, there's no research evidence-based study stating that the recitation of the Vedas by women creates some negative impact. There's no study. A lot of them claim that it will affect the integrity of the uterus, it will give you thyroid malignancies, but there's no evidence to it. And I'm taking examples of many senior scholars who have been teaching women for the past 3 decades, And they claim, they stand as authorities, saying that they have never seen any adverse effects. I have never seen adverse effects. I've seen tremendous potential, enormous positive effects. Right. So when there are a lot of females who want to learn, why would we want to restrict that? And right?
Yes.
And
so in my understanding, it's so inherently opposed to the quadrant of spirituality, which is all encompassing, right? The dichotomy of the Purusha and the Shakti, which is the masculine and the feminine that exists. It's for a purpose to create a certain type of a union and certain type of a life webbing through us, right? But it does not allow or disallow anybody to reach the source or acknowledge the source or be a part of it. How can some creation be less privileged?
Yes, exactly.
Whereas the cosmos itself has given the permission for it to bloom.
Yes.
So no subset species should be in the capacity of that power to say that you are included or you are not included.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So I think that is rightly mentioned by you, and that people are now creating a certain wave, and women are naturally more inquisitive about getting into the process of finding the true self, which is actually today's reality more than earlier reality. Earlier we used to have mumukshus going in search of the truth. This is actually a very amusing thought. What do you think about it? Do you think that nowadays spirituality is more sought after by women?
Yes, definitely. My personal opinion, definitely. In comparison to males, it's almost like a ratio of 10 to 1. A lot of women, because in a way, Vedas, it's art. The whole universe, when the mantras themselves are the dynamics of the inner absolute reality, which is in the cosmos, which we refer as Shiva. So when it dances, that's what takes form of Shakti. So in a way, Vedas are a manifestation of Shakti. So
beautiful.
Yes. So in a way, women learn it better, and they approach it in a very different manner. They genuinely enjoy the process of learning it, comparison to males. And discipline, an aspect of discipline or even dedication, it's always, in my opinion, what I have seen, women definitely shine out better.
That's true. It's also in my experience, there are more women who are working on the self-growth.
And I think that's even, Gita, I'm not sure of they say that women have 7 powers while males have 5 or something, right? Yeah, maybe, to...
That's a good boost.
Yes, there's something which is not there, and which enables women to, I don't know, they can very much tune in the dynamics of the Vedas. It works very differently.
I think it's also the power of the creation, because of course there are 2 parts to a creation. There is a semen and there is an ovum, which comes together to make a new life, right? But I think it's the whole process where the nature has trusted women with the nurturing, the gestation and the delivery process. I think they are somewhere the creatrix of the universe itself. So how can they be so devoid of the creation that we are adulating? Or
exactly. Yes.
So now that brings to another interesting counterpart of it, which is, if there is more active participation by women, there is also a good decline in the number of men who are seeking this. That's also a very unhealthy proportion. So what do you think is happening? Is it because of the change of the yuga, or is it because it's just a cycle which is going to restore itself?
Things were very much different in the past, right? So maybe even, I'm not sure the population, maybe the ratio itself, like the gender discrepancy itself, is different now. And probably the restrictions that women had back in the days is no longer present now, right?
That's a valid point.
Yes, because like even traditionally, women, as you said, they were caretakers. So they provided, they maintained, they sustained the family. There was a male who sought and probably did the duty towards society, right? So now it's changing. Like, everyone, there's no, the role the traditional idea of gender dharma is now being intermixed. Yeah, so in that sense, I feel that we are starting to see more women who are involving in Vedas or exploring these things, because we are seeing it from the perspective of what was there in the past.
Right.
So we generally hear about male figures who were the giants of spirituality, who were the great sages. So maybe, as I said, maybe because the role, the freedom that women have is now different.
Yeah, that makes the whole scope of observation also look different.
Yes. It's not something wrong or right. It's just that the role women had in the past differed from what it is today. So when that opens up, there's more fluidity.
Right.
So a lot of women who want to explore these things can directly and openly explore such parts like Vedas or whatnot.
Right. I think you're representing that section of the very few male population who is managing the practicality of doing what needs to be done in today's day and age. But at the same time, sticking to the roots is a very big inspiration for people to come back to their roots. So I think now we are going to come to the end of this session, and in our next session we will pick up on the agamas, the tantras as an extension of the Vedic practices.
Yes, sure.
Thank you so much, Vineet.
Thank you so much.
Lovely having you.